really, really well in low ground. If he can just get to that situation where he is alive in that end game, he can pop off. And speaking of popping off, Hop gonna take down Kyle Poppins.
Yeah, Kyle Poppins not finding any joy there. And here's an interesting thing from Chicken. He's got 3 medkits in his inventory. He walked past 2 others. If he's actually been able to tag Falconer at all, he's effectively safe from the first Storm Surge zone. So especially being over in Slurpee, and based on the zone pulling mostly center, he could just hang out. He could take zone forever. 5 medkits is so much time. That's effectively, I believe, 4 minutes that you can end up spending in the zone. So it's just like, you're big chillin'.
Indeed, and once again, look at Rex's inventory. A quick stat though for everyone. Through the first 3 games, NA West has been the most passive region in the first 3 zones, and I think that stat is going to hold up. Look at just how many people have gone down. 3. Only 3 people have gone down this entire game. Zone's almost already done closing. We'll get into second zone there. And it's only been 3 eliminations.
And I love how Rex, like, I honestly, like, I looked around to make sure I didn't have any other tabs playing, because I was like, what is that music? And apparently Rex felt the exact same way I did, because he didn't need the wood. He was like, no, get this DJ Desi out of here. What are we doing? This isn't a dance party. We're playing Fortnite. Well, at this point, it might as well be a dance party. You talked about it. It's very typical for NA West. We're used to it. We pretty much see, like, 3 or 4 fights off of spawn, depending on the game mode. But otherwise, people, they kind of poke. They prod, they make themselves look big and scary, but really they just want Storm Surge and they want to head and chill.
Alethi doing just that, chilling up on top of one of these old Guardian towers there up above. Everyone down below, look at Nate, look at Healthy right there, trying to find something. Healthy, I think, could go for an interesting edit play there if they wanted to, but Nate all the way down below. Maybe turn their sights onto them. A 28 tag gonna come through. Adam will go down to Macon, who's starting to get back into this game. Hey, though, once again, we see yet another Llama's loot.
Llama. It just seems to keep going in, and these players prioritizing so much. And yes, Llamas did change this season. They run away from you, and they're a little harder to track down. But the loot they end up coming with is so beneficial. You effectively max out on builds immediately. You get that exotic chug splash cannon, which is just so valuable. You're guaranteed a launch pad to end up coming with it because you get some form of traps. It's just so good.
Look at everything else in that. Oh, we got a replay coming on through. This is Clippers. Just minutes ago, it feels like. Look at that. Ooh. Unfortunate. And Hop just comes through and says, oh, I'm sorry. Did I elim you? Was I the one that did that? Oh, look at all that free loot I just got.
And it looks like he's actually struggling a little bit to decide what he wants to take with him. Not a problem I ever run into. Again, not often seeing loot like that on the scavenger routes, but these guys have been dealing with almost the same kind of loot. Everyone just grabbing whatever they can and trying to sprint towards the fight. And Falconer doing everything he can with whatever he can. A huge tag onto Exy to force him off there, and it might give him the opportunity to go aggro. And this is something you talked about, wanting to see him play more aggressive. Good piece control to cut him off on that side. Exy changes direction, immediate wall replacement, a good cone to go down. Not quite able to break the shield, so doesn't really know that Falconer is very low here at only 60 effective HP. He'll know now.
Ooh, unfortunate there. Riverson, though, on the back foot this time around. Jay Rose is being a little bit more aggressive. Riverson doesn't really, okay, I was gonna say, it doesn't seem like they had shields right away, but because of the pressure, they didn't want to pop it right then. And still not going for that pop as Favs is rotating on through. Doesn't have full shields and is choosing to wait on that.
At least pop 1 minute. Like, right, you have 5. Like, what are you gonna do with the...
Okay, oh, that works too.
I mean, I'll take it, but I'll still disagree with the fact that you should have popped the mini beforehand. Then you would have ended up with the 87 effective HP where now you're not able to utilize it. However, I mean, sometimes you just, everything aligns, he weaves the shots in, but now he needs to be careful about everything aligning for another player. They find him when he's in a slightly awkward position, had his blueprints out, and that's Jay Roses, the first the Season X FNCS winner, the ones who ended up placing 33rd in the qualifier round, but it got him a ticket to the dance, and they upset the apple cart by winning that first ever FNCS, and they did it largely on the back of Jay Rose's play. Dog ended up contributing a solid amount, but Jay Roses is scary, not somebody you want to see a couple boxes away.
I'm just so intrigued by his mentality there. Just, again, not pop that many, but going for that retake down the wall, trying to get playing back tricks on the other side. Nigel here had some great pop-up moments in that first game, but hasn't really gotten, but I believe that last game got 1 point, which is unfortunate there for them, as Kytrex now will fall. And this edge zone play, again, this season, I feel like it's going to be even a little bit more common now that launch pads are introduced as that option of mobility. Because if you're on that edge of zone, almost every single next zone you should be able to make with that launch pad, and for the exception of that first and maybe the second zone. So everyone, as long as they've got one, you'll probably see them play a little bit more safer on that edge.
Yeah, because they know they have that option to just be able to get out of dodge when they need it. But as we've talked about, particularly with NA West being so passive in the early stages, Storm Surge becomes that much more important, as we'll tune in with Rex, who is losing the battle here, and then he's also going to get dinked. So it doesn't matter when you create this almost Porta Fortress up top. He's going to have to start popping utility to avoid being eliminated. 39 damage down from Surge. You can see Rex leads all players in elims during the first 3 zones, but in this game, he's not necessarily finding the success he did before, as Reet is going to end up picking up Caleb. Nigel gets Salco, Slim gets Dingy, and tons of eliminations are popping off, but here comes Storm Surge. 25 damage every 5 seconds to the players who have done the least amount of damage till we get down to 70. Currently, it's going to be impacting 5 players, and Rex, he's trying to find the shots. He finds Exy, he finds 1, but like we said, it was 28 below, and it's still going down. Now only 2 below, but 2 is still greater than 0, and he's gonna find a much needed tag right before that Storm Surge ended up coming through. We got the visual effect, but he didn't lose the damage, so will only end up costing him 2 big shields overall. I mean, that's really avoiding a worst case scenario.
Great awareness from Rex to find those tags. And again, in trios, we look right now about to be about 124, maybe 150 above, as you see Riverson is, as you see Chicken is. But right now, Rex 64 above, it's going to be pretty safe. They're bouncing back and forth. There's only 2 people that need to fall down. They're looking for more tags. But because there's not as much damage being contributed both back and forth from trio to trio, solos, you get a little bit more leeway with the amount of damage that you've done. Bluzzo will fall. Tina Chicken using one of these, I believe it's the IO guards vehicles with the chonkers on them, and they are just so powerful. Look at how quick they go.
Hey, you are zooming even with that back tire shot out, but you see a little bit of the spinster coming through as he's going to be able to find some space. We'll look around and see who else is potentially getting into a little bit of business here, as we do see top left corner, 70 players remaining, so Storm Surge is turned off. There's not going to be any force aggression, but potentially people looking to take advantage. As this zone pulls, man, I feel bad for anybody who's over on that northwestern side. We came pretty much as far southeast as possible with this 3rd zone. Look at that. The safe zone is pretty much touching the sword.
Ooh, I am excited to see where this next zone goes. Krizix, again, we haven't really talked that much about Krizix in these games. Kind of been flying under the radar a little bit. It did end up getting, I think, an average placement of 13.33, so doing really, really well. Average elims getting 3, the same amount as Riverson, just did not get that victory royale, and that separated them a lot in those games. And honestly, they have a chance. Again, it's still up for grabs. We'll know after this game, depending on how Riverson, how Rex, how Krizix do, as well as Caleb, as well as Chicken, as well as Takumi, because they're all still so close. We'll get a better picture of that top 10 and who's really going to start to pull away with the lead if that ends up happening. But again, as you know, and as you've coined, Sundown, the shoop happens all the time.
Yeah, and it's just a question of when. And if it doesn't happen, then that means Riverson was able to just ride it out. However, in the last game, he already lost 14 points off of his 35-point lead. So the question is, where is he? What is he doing now? And what happens with that second round Storm Surge? So we peep on over, we see Exy is just chilling. He's got a little bit of a walk to end up doing, but this pretty decently spaced zone here for zone number 5. There's not too much of the map that is really clustered. I would say that southern part of the zone is probably where we'll end up seeing most action. The north side should be pretty good, but otherwise even spread around the east to west.
And I like this a little bit more from Epic Whale. We've got more opportunities to go for these tags. We've got a great amount of builds. Their inventory looks great other than that AR ammo, but just where their position looks good for their type of play. I am worried about that AR ammo, just that it needs to spray. Epic Whale will spray. Riverson gonna find an elimination there on the TNG Pal, who we were hyping up, but see what Epic Whale decides to do with Oracle, trying to make their move on into the zone, trying just to hold out everybody, but again, it's still so passive right now.
Yeah, it looks like Powell was not that guy. Instead, Riverson being that guy. Curious as to what his positioning is in terms of rotating the zone, where he was able to pick up an elimination. We swing back on over to Arkham, who ticks below, hits a shot, and then still ends up ticking back below. Quick stat left-hand side, Arkham and Makem are the only players to finish top 15 in each FNCS Solos event, which is very, incredibly impressive. That's FNCS Invitational, the FNCS Solos that then followed it up after the fact. So being able to be consistent in what is traditionally the most inconsistent of the game modes, where you're only relying on yourself, that really shows a level of commitment.
Will be interesting to see Arkham. I want to see this comeback came through. 15 points is not where we expect him to be. Again, he did win that FNCS Solo Invitational all the way back, I believe, in it was May or March or February of last year. It's been a long time since then. Can't remember the exact month, but still a very dominant solo player. And Zone is not going to pull right on top of them, but that's a favorable pull for him.
Yeah, it's not far away, but sometimes, hey, it's just not his day. Storm Surge has been probably the biggest detracting factor. He's been able to get the early eliminations, but he's just not making it into the end games. No, actually, I lied. It was Rex who's been getting the early eliminations, who's been popping off in that circumstance. Arkham's just been kind of hanging out, so sometimes he's not able to put all the pieces together. Rex, though, is going to be the one representing for the trio so far. You can see all the action popping off the left-hand side of the feed. That's largely because Storm Surge is up. 6-1 players will need to go down. Healthymon falling to that purple thunderbolt from the sky. And you can see Rex, Godku both just cone peeking, chilling. Nani across the way saying, hey, what's up, neighbors? Godku begins his rotation. We see Riverson bottom right-hand corner and current leader about to make his way into the second placement threshold. 53 players remaining. And he's got solid positioning too. Got the peppers, got a launch pad, and has plenty of mass.
But that lobby focus could come through. They hold it off for it now. Riverson, though, 3 elims for Ape, sitting on 1. And loadout not looking the best, though. I think they got less than a clip of AR. They've got some shotgun to work with, but once you run to that AR, that pump shotgun doesn't really have that combo swap to partner with. Riverson, though, using that red tack, and I talked about how the red tack, not one of my favorites, not a lot of pros' favorites, but it's doing him well right now.
Yeah, and 3 elims so far, bouncing back from what was just a 2-point game in match number 3. When we talked about it through the first 2 games, he ended up having a average placement of 2nd with a 3rd into a 1st. I mean, somebody who you would be remiss if not mentioning him among the top players in NA West, somebody who's been doing it for such a long time, going back over to East, coming over to West. It doesn't matter where you put him. One of the few who's been able to really transplant and still have success. But right now, we're going to hop on board with Frappo. You got Krizix right next to him, and both of them sitting on 55 points. This is going to end up being a key rotation, as nobody, absolutely nobody Nobody has priority on that zone. There is one person towards that southwestern side. Otherwise, every other member of the lobby is going to be rotating past Bryanka, and that slight change in verticality right there is going to mean everybody who doesn't launch pad is going to have a tough time. So you see Chicken, he's looking, and we saw this situation happen before where he went looking for a launch pad and he had to pay, and he nearly does there. 27 effective HP. He's going to try and get on the front side of the zone and then stop. He has to pop shields. He cannot take a fight, and he has a decent amount of space. Keep an eye on the top left corner as we see players begin to drop. Baka goes down, Notch goes down, and you called it, Clay, falling there. Krizix not able to make it, but on the right-hand side, Riverson still up on his feet, still with 3 eliminations. He's in the bottom right-hand corner. Jay in your top right-hand corner. He's up now, dropping down the low ground. We're going to hop in. Riverson, who's on that mid-tarp with a pepper pop, just sprinting forward. He'll have one more afterward, but he's running low on materials.
We've seen him operate well before, and Nate would be the perfect person to get those siphon mats on, but they're going to edit their way on down. Riverson now reloading. A pause will come through. It is going to pull away from him yet again, but Frappe was in contention as well. Now going to fall. Epic Whale operating, so this game wrecks. Still in this game as well. Riverson just trying to build that lead and push it as much as they can, using all the builds to get here. What can they find? They've got 8 left. Can they find any shotgun shots? Can they find any ARs? Going for the stair tunnel, running out of builds right there. No more remaining. Looking up, Nigel could be the one they find that elimination on, but no, they've got builds that can do just a little bit more than Riverson right now. If he's able to find that chunk in, it would be so great. Look who's on the high ground. Turtle Tavern is operating there. Rex goes down. He is out, and now any points that Riverson gets just goes towards the lead.
He's going to be able to stretch that lead out, especially if he ends up just staying in the map to hit that top 20. Epic Whale, though, 3 eliminations. He's going to drop down, look to see if he can't get a refresher. Is that a mistake, though, with so many other players on the low ground? 84, and then immediately followed up into the pump swap. That was Nani, but then Arkham ends up picking up Bryanka. Reed immediately gets Nani, so there's 2 players dropped there. Riverson picks up another Elim, picks up another placement threshold into the top 15, but he's out of builds. However, he's got to be happy with this. After his match 3 performance, he's going to be able to stretch that lead out. He'll avoid any shupening all the way up at the top. Nigel times the med kick correctly, but then misses falling onto any other builds, and instead he just says, I'll pop another. No, he's actually then going to opt to put the minis on. We'll see if he can potentially get a med kit off, but can he count to 4? No, instead he's going to drop back, say, I don't need to count anything. Favs goes down. Riverside with 7 HP and a dream on the low ground. He just wants to make it to top 10, and he does by just waiting. He goes down, but he catches one more placement threshold. Arkham, however, is still up on the low ground. He's been running through. He's on at least 3 or 4 eliminations, finding it. Reed also on his feet. So 2 veterans who haven't had a great day are making plays here.
This is what Arkham needed to do. If he could get this victory out, it would set him up so well. But Reed on the low ground, on a tear, is going to be so hard. Nice shot from Arkham. Is going to get that siphon. Goes back into zone. He's going to have to pick up that chug cannon. Will have to use it right now. Does get back up to 175 effective HP. Builds are on his side, dropping all the way down low ground, claiming everything that they can. But high ground is shooting down. He's using that chug cannon just to try to find any sort of reprieve there. Reed looks good as well. Has the chug cannon. Has an epic pump shotgun. Does not have a lot of builds. Edited down. Arkham going to take a lot of damage onto Reed. Batman Boo going to go down. Arkham going to take him down as well. It's a 1v1. Arkham could do this, could get himself back into the competition right here. Only has 7 builds remaining. He uses the chug cannon once more. Turtle Tavern up above, who is healthier, but not by a lot. Look at the loadout differences. A big pump versus that green one. Turtle Tavern going down. Hits a big shot on both sides, but Arkham comes out of nowhere to pick up the victory royale with 6 eliminations.
What a great edit at the ending there to end up flipping the ramp. Turtle Tavern did a brilliant job to be able to pick up the eliminations. We saw him controlling the high ground. He ended up with 6. Arkham also ended up with 6, but he did it by clearing out on the low ground, winning the 1v1 up against Reed, and then watch this play here, able to get the triangle edit, covers himself, and then he's just hits the chug splash cannon. This is the one I'm talking about. Edits the code, drops him down, hits the big pump, and then sticks the AR aim. The 100 Thieves player gonna feel good about his match 4 victory royale, and I mean, it's gonna close the gap a little bit, but Riverson had another fantastic performance. That's 3 out of 4 games, Clay.
And I'm just so excited to see where that leaderboard goes, because again, Riverson stayed alive for a long amount of time. Arkham tried to cut into the lead, but we definitely need Zeke, Shio, and Kelly to just really break it down.
When it comes down to the battle of just a straight up 1v1, you can't build. The only thing you could do is edit. These are the most intense moments for Turtle Tavern having to drop down. They're absolutely insane. But our friends, Clay and Sundown, they called it right. Look at this lead that Riverson has created. A 30-point difference right now, Kelly. It's looking good, but we still have 2 games to go.
I mean, an absolutely incredible performance from Riverson, of course, taking such a dominant lead at the start of the competition and then carrying that on into the second half of games. But obviously, we have to look at Arcrum, not just grabbing that victory royale with 6 eliminations, but he was in 57th place last game, jumping up all the way to 5th place right here. That might be the biggest jump we've seen in an FNCS competition right here. And you heard Cam talking about it, Shio, the incredible edits right here to get him that victory royale versus Turtle Tavern.
Yeah, I'm basically dubbing him Arcrum the Alligator. The way this guy is so patient and camouflaging, basically standing still, right beside everyone else. He waits for people to pass by him or just ignore him completely. You saw it right before Turtle Tavern, right? Reed was right above him, sees him pass, boy was like, oh, that's Arcrum. He's not gonna do anything. Boom, edited down, big pump. Turtle Tavern, oh, that's a free cone I can walk over. Boom, edited, big pump. I mean, Arcrum just snaps his jaw on every competitor and then just twists and turns to maximum efficiency. And you can see that, right? 306 eliminations total in all FNCS is 306. That is an absurd number, and it's only padding those stats today.
Unfortunately, we aren't seeing those eliminations right now today. He does have only 8 eliminations, 6 of those coming out of game number 4. But right now, we all know that Arcrum is all about momentum, and he's getting that momentum with this victory royale. Hopefully, these next 2 games can make the difference between him and Riverson right now, because currently it is about a 40-point difference, 38 points to be exact. And if you look at our top 2 players right now, Shio, Riverson has 13 eliminations. Jay has 13 eliminations as well. It actually seems like right now, placement isn't as important as eliminations are as far as a solo competition matters.
Hey, who would have thought that elims would make the difference on West? You? Me? Not me. Maybe
what?
You. But still, the real test is going to be onto Riverson now for these last few games. The people who take the lead, get the first win, they fizzle out, right? By games 4, 5, and 6, Arcrum, Epic Whale, 4DR Storm, Rex, these guys adapt. They start to catch up and they move faster. Now, yes, River has that lead. He's all the way there. But these final 2 games, Zeke, he can't falter or he might lose it all.
That's right, man. I mean, just look how close everything is from literally 2nd place down to 10th. That's really only a handful of points.
Wow.
Once again, that's a single placement. That's a handful of eliminations. This is really, really tight right now. And once again, there's just look at this. Arcrum, Rex, Epic Whale. They're in your top 10 right now. They're waiting to strike. Frappa as well, we can't forget. He got that victory royale not that long ago. So once again, Riverson, it's going to be all about keeping his cool going into these next 2 games. Not letting anything phase him. He's got a lot of eyes. He's got a target on his back. He's just got to play it slow. He's got to make sure he can, once again, even if he doesn't get eliminations, hitting like a top 10 just to pad that score is going to be enough. For sure, at minimum, he walks away with like a top 5 after the competition is said and done. But he has a really good shot at placing first right now. The question is, can he hold off the sharks that smell the blood in the water? But you know what? As much as I want to keep having this conversation, we're going back into the game. It's game number 5 of the FNCS All-Star Showdown. Clay, Sundown, take it over.
Thank you so much, Zeke, Shio, and Kelly. And we have 2 more matches before it's all said and done in the FNCS All-Star Showdown. But Clay, we could see a victory clinched right here. Riverson's close to being able to do it. One more solid game will effectively, mathematically put him out of contention from anybody else catching.
He's just got to be able to put the game together. Had it in those first 2 games and had some pretty consistent ones since then, but really needs this game because Arcrum is coming from the bottom section of that leaderboard and he is hungry. He is ready to fight. We saw it there. And when Arcrum gets on a tear, that's exactly why he won that solo FNCS Invitational so long ago. And it is a scary, scary thing to see.
You see, a little bit of a middle cut on the bus, a little southernly, going from Slurpee to just south of Dirty Docks, some of those northern rotations. I'm not going to be too happy about that, but the Southeast boys definitely will. They'll have a nice, clear path through. We'll keep an eye here. You see Riverson in the top right, Exy in the bottom right, Jay in between them. Leaderboard going in. I mean, these are your top three, but realistically, we talked about Riverson looking to clinch. A victory royale is 30 points. Right? Eliminations are each worth 2. I think realistically, if Riverson can open up a 40-point lead, that's effectively all she wrote. That would mean then in the final game, Riverson would have to go down with absolutely 0 points, which he hasn't done yet. His worst game has been 2 points, right? And then whoever is in second place would have to pick up not only a victory royale, but also 5+ eliminations. So that's kind of the bar I'm looking at before I, like, in my head almost call it. And right now, he's looking to add to that total a little bit. He's looking to potentially get a quick little ambush onto Takumi.
Such a low HP, and I really just want to sit down and chat with Riverson about what it is with him and not popping minis. Because this is the second time we've popped on board. And what? Okay, still, this the min-maxing, 1 HP, not as bad as we saw before, but I guess the thought process here, Sundown, is that at least now he has 2. If he loses that shield, he'll have it enough to get back up to 150, which is definitely the play. But still, again, there's those little things.
I just, why wouldn't you get yourself up to, I don't know. Wait, just weird decision making. It's all good. I'd rather have the higher amount of shield, but hey, I'm not the one who's winning their region convincingly by 34 points right now. He's doing something right, so I can't fault him. You see Jay on the other side going for a little bit more of that traditional mid-maxing route, making sure he eats the minis and then going to be able to pick up whatever else around him. However, we're going to flip on over. You got Blezro versus Kadenox over at one of the satellites, and we'll see how this one shakes out. Neither of these players necessarily having the best day, and they're way up in that northwest corner.
This is an interesting engagement. I was gonna say, if it does end up happening, I'm glad K-Nux decides that it's just not worth it, takes that IO vehicle and just gets away. It's gonna take a lot of damage on the vehicle itself on the way out, but it should be able just to coast out on through and should be good to go. But again, 10 points, not where they want to be. They can still start to come back to get to those upper echelons of placement. My apologies there, but not going to be where Riverson is. Again, as long as Riverson stays alive, and you said it really well, it's tournament management. At this point, when you have the lead, you just have to keep playing for those placement points.
Yeah, and he's just got to hang on. Every single one of the placement points that he ends up getting means that the rest of the lobby isn't closing the gap. We've talked about it before in NA West. We talked about it in some of the other regions as well. It's that point delta where, hey, if he's staying up until top 75, well, that's one less point that you're able to kind of secure and steal away. Every single placement threshold that he ends up staying in the match is just him getting that much closer to that #1 spot. I mean, Riverson really wants to take away this W. You saw a little bit in the interviews. You saw it after he moved back to West. Like, he feels like he has the capability to dominate the region, and he's doing it right now.
Rex is trying to, as a big, it's not that big of a lead to really catch up to, but if anybody, honestly, I think could do it, it's going to be Rex. It's going to be Arkham. It's going to be one of them. And at that, even Jay, right? We haven't really talked much about Jay. 61 points coming on through out of 4 games. Has been playing a decent game. That last game really shot them up to the top. So they have that chance to make it happen. And just a quick stat for everyone. Arkham has now won a game in each solo FNCS style tournament.
That's pretty nuts. That is actually an absurd stat. Like, if you think about just how difficult solos are in terms of consistently making it into the end games every single time and being able to put up a performance, this dude has won a game in every single one of them. That is possibly one of the most impressive stats that I have heard, just period. And that really goes to show just his level of domination. And again, going into that match, he was 56 beforehand. Now he's vaulted himself up into 5th and in the conversation.
And that's that. You know, we talk about X Factor in certain trios, and that trio has it all. Every single trio mate has the X Factor. Arkham right there in the solo moments. But just a quick note for everybody: this is the biggest lead we've seen on broadcast today. After 4 games in EU, the first and second were tied at 90 points each, and 6 points separated first and second in NA East after 4 games, compared to the 33 points here in NA West. So by far the biggest lead is Macon is going to get the box on Domo. The fish is there, but can they find the elimination? No, Macon can get third party from behind. And once that third player enters this situation, you've got to disengage, and it's 4 DR Storm coming through trying to get involved.
And you can see right now that Macon doesn't want to go down here. He's somebody who we talked about before, was on that streak of placing in the top 15 in all the other previous FNCS Solos events. Him and Arkham, well, Macon's streak, if he doesn't do something here in the last 2 games, that's going to end. 23 points is not good enough to push you up into that conversation. And largely, he's been quiet today. He's made 1 or 2 end games, but that's really been it, and it's not something you expect of a player of his caliber.
Still a chance for them to start to mount that comeback towards the top of the leaderboard, not the tippity top, but it's there. The box is going to come through. Macon gets everything but the wall in front of him, gets the cone in there as well. Oh, but not the cone up above. So Domo is going to be editing their way on through. Wall almost going to be taken there by Macon, trying to block them off from going up. Is going to go for that wall replacement, gets a sniper shot to the back, takes a lot of damage, and that's going to dissuade any pushes coming through. And at this point, Macon just wants a 1v1 in this fight. They don't want a third party. They don't want a fourth party coming in. They just want to be able to fight Domo.
That's all anybody wants is a 1v1, but unfortunately, it's a battle royale, baby. There's 97 players on this map, and only one gets to walk away with the W. Domo going straight in. He's going to skill check Macon, and it looked like he was going to win, but Macon gets a huge bailout pump right there, going to finish off Domo, and Domo's going to feel pretty poor about that one. It seemed like he had the drop on him in the advantage. If you get into that box-to-box situation with an epic tack, you generally expect that to go the way of the tack player. However, Macon, he hit the one shot he needed.
Did indeed, and now can finally make their rotation out. But once again, we've had this fight happen for such a long time, and still only a handful of players have gone down. Once again in AOS, holding that passive placed out in the first and second zones, moving back over to our leader at 33 points coming into this game. Their loadout, once again, it's not bad at all. They've got everything they needed to win the game. I believe actually do have 2 launch pads, and there is a supply drop nearby if they wanted to go look for them. But in all honesty, it's going to be just so hard to catch Riverside as long as he keeps playing consistent.
It's tournament management time. I know we keep saying it. I know we keep stressing it, but all Riverson cares about, he doesn't care about going for elimination. He just wants to stay on his feet. He wants to build up right here. He's going to look for Storm Surge tags, but he's going to start checking off those boxes where if he starts getting placement points and everybody else doesn't, the onus is going to be on the other players to start playing more aggressive. And this is Fortnite. This is the best of the best, where even a single one of these players, even if they're at the bottom of the leaderboard, if you're forced to go aggressive on you, they can play defensively. They can put you down and end up making your tournament that much harder, or effectively ending it if you get too aggressive.
That is just one thing it's so hard, because in that moment you're like, oh yes, this is the right play, and then you make it and it ends up not being the right play, and it costs you the entire tournament. So it's so much pressure, so hard. And look at EXE just trying to make sure that K-Nux doesn't actually end up spraying them out of the air, just trying to rotate it. It's like, hey, just let me launch pad. And EXE gonna get tagged up from down below, but luckily for them, they've got 10 minis on their inventory.
That glider with that outfit combination looked so absurdly weird to me for a second. It was almost like Flying Squirrel-esque, but Exy ends up getting a pretty solid spot here. The one thing, though, is the player who is in a better position is Energy's Epic Whale, who is just staring at him. And he's done this before, where he'll box up around a bush and then cover himself. And instead, Exy decides to try and slide down the hill. That's Aruko, who's immediately going to back him off. Tries to use the Fireflies, but hey, fire doesn't burn stone.
Does not. The medkit will come through for EXE. We'll have time for it. Epic Well going to continue to move their way on through. You see him top right of your screen for just a moment. Rex now going to be on the middle of your screen. That car going to explode. Rex has got to expand that base just a little bit. Is going to be a little bit safe. That cone will protect them from that fire coming on through. And of course, they are in metal, so it's not going to spread that rapidly there. Raze on the other side. This is one of the first times I think we've seen Rex without one of these epic or legendary pump shotguns or attack shotguns that they keep finding. And so I'm excited to see how they operate in this game. Epic Whale, as we said, was on this side of the zone. Caleb rotating on through. Epic Whale still in contention. It's all really what happens with Riverson. If they go down before placement even happens, that lead is going to get cut into significantly, if not taken over. If he stays up into those upper echelon of placements, then it's just going to be that much harder to catch him.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what it's all about. If you work so hard to build up a lead, what does it matter if you don't defend it? You need to shift your game plan a little bit. You worked really hard to get that lead. Now do what you need to make sure other people can't end up closing the gap. And that first check is Storm Surge. When we do get an opportunity, I'd love to get a peek over at Riverson and see whether or not he is above or below the threshold. If he's above, then it doesn't particularly matter. We can then peek back in at somebody else. But if he is ever below, that immediately ends up becoming the story. As you can see, Chicken is below, and he's also being held by somebody in between him and the safe zone. So this could get tough.
May be able to make it through. Again, those IO vehicles have a lot of power behind them, and they can move just a little bit quicker than the normal four-door cars that you will see in this game. So it should be good. Shouldn't have that much pressure, but there is some pressure there to worry about. As Slim being shot at by Nigel, again, still in contention. There's a lot of players that are going to still be in contention, and it will come down. Again, we talked about passivity in NA West. Since we talked about that, 2 people have been eliminated. A whole 2 people.
I was about to say, it probably sounds like we're just rambling a lot, and I don't know if you guys have been paying attention or there's a slight pattern here, but after that first drop and minus a couple of rotation fights, everyone kind of chills. It's much more about positioning, looking for that tags, and what ends up happening then is the Storm Surge threshold ends up getting driven up just a little bit higher and becomes that much more difficult for the players who are underneath to then continue and get above it. That's why you end up seeing that Storm Surge is such a huge factor in Equalizer over in NA West. But now we're going to hop back on board here. Counter Logic Gaming, TK, a.k.a. Jay, who is known as one of the youngsters back in the World Cup days, able to qualify through. Now has definitely been able to grow up a bit and be one of the veterans of the NA West scene. As we do see that next zone reveal, Storm Surge will tick on. And you got Chris, Kytrex, all right on top of Riverson, who is 49 above, which should be fine. There's still 12 players that need to go down, but he wants to try and take advantage, potentially going aggressive onto Kytrex there. Instead, Jay going to just obliterate Spidey. That fight wasn't close.
And this is very worrisome for Riverson. Jay in second place is scary because Jay is an aggressive player. If he can keep this momentum going, if he is confident in these fights, Jay can just simply overtake the leaders. Riverson's gonna get Kytrex there. I'm not sure exactly where that came from, but he saw him. He wasn't really in an opportunity to go for that fight. Definitely want to keep our eyes on that. This is second place right now in this fight versus Cal down below, trying to get the wall, trying to get the floor, trying to get everything in the box. They get the wall, but they don't get the floor after multiple different tries. We'll grab these. We'll try to grab any of that extra match just to make sure. This box fight going back and forth. Cal trying to put some damage down. And as we said that, we talked about how it's passive. It's passive. When that third zone closes, NA West just completely starts obliterating each other. And you see it went from 87 to 70 in a matter of seconds.
Well, you don't have a choice, right? Storm Surge is coming through and you got to fight. You're taking that damage, and especially in solos, there's only so much excess utility you're able to hold on to. But that's especially true if you have that many more players up, right? It's kind of, there's a little bit of a self-balancing factor in it where if there's that many more players up, all of the shields have been looted out, so they're not funneled into one player. We'll hop on board here. You can see Kytrex, who was under the threat of Storm Surge and Riverson, doing everything he can, hearing that shield break, and you saw that he was trying to set up that ambush beforehand. It pays off, and now 97 points, and he's not afraid to take fights when he knows he has an advantage. We saw him setting that up, and that was the execution. Brilliant job by production, showing us that replay and just showing how he's able to pull it off. And now he's rotated right on the edge of zone. He has priority positioning here, and with that satellite base pretty much in the path for his next rotation regardless, he'll have an extra launch pad that's on the map that he can recycle. Whether or not he opts to path over there is another question, because you could see the lobby trying to gravitate towards that utility.
And if zone pulls on top of them, it'd honestly be better if it didn't. I feel like that launch pad will allow them to center up just a little bit more, and where they are is not as center. Again, Frappe still in contention. Looking at the leaderboard, there's still, I think, so many opportunities for players to sort of come back. As you do see Bumboy going to go down, Rex in the top of your screen, Frappe bottom left, Arkram bottom right. Look at how close these points are, all within one of each other, as Frappe just barely leading Rex and Arkram. And this is, again, just it comes down to how this game, and then this game will set the pace. If Riverson goes down, there's still a chance for everybody in this game to win overall.
Yeah, again, don't forget, only 1 point has been given out so far this game. Riverson, however, does have the elimination to add on to it, so he's had a nice little +3. But if he goes down outside of that top 35-ish window, there's still plenty of placement points to be gifted over. And as we saw with Arkham, swings can happen. They don't always happen, especially when you're playing as well as Riverson is. But they can happen. The opportunity is still there. What happens on this rotation is going to dictate a lot of the pace of the game. I'm particularly interested to see who's able to get priority position on the east side, who's not already in the zone. So we're gonna have about 30 people pushing into 4 or 5, and Rex is gonna be a part of that. You see Arukal, they're going. Everyone who's just gonna start their run, not using a launch pad, and they're just crossing the line.
Very, very brave to just go ahead and do that, but at some point you just have to make your move, Epic Whale. Nice shots coming on through. Could have used that hand cannon, but look, only 3 ammo inside of it, as well as total outside. 022 gonna get eliminated. Turtle Tavern gonna get taken down. K-Knock's gonna turn online. Get that elimination. Turtle Tavern again went down to make it 9 below for Arkham. He's gonna find a couple tags that should put him somewhere above 124. So we wanted that update to come on through before we fully said he was below. And this is great for Arkham. Everything is lining up, but can they execute on their plan?
Yeah, and that first update generally lets you know kind of what the lowest level is. So a lot of people are going to be ping-ponging back and forth underneath that threshold. Let's see Quinn pick up a huge elimination there, trying to get himself up onto the board. We'll swing it back over to EXE as Rex goes down to J Roses. Demon Roses living up to his name. They're finding a key elimination. XC, good job immediately covering there. Jay also going to be able to pick up an E-Lip onto Silly Tricks. That was the CLG one, though, as he's able to try and close the gap just a little bit more on Riverson, saying, hey, you're not pulling away with eliminations quite yet.
Look at the inventory, though. This is, for Riverson, not as great as we have seen. It's not shambles yet, but still has opportunity to make things happen. 76 build does have minis, and ooh, that zone is pulling northeast. Ultimate distance away. Does have launch pads to make the rotate, though. Ooh!
Oh, and you see Jay hitting with that legendary burst fountain dink into the body shot we saw particularly over in NA East as well. Kaneda was making a point to make sure to side grade into this every single time, utilizing that burst for that 2-shot power to just try and change them together. And right now, you can see Jay desperately looking for people who are on this backside of the zone. He has an angle to potentially get involved with this fight under the bridge, but he might just let the trolls be trolls and instead rotate a little bit late towards the backside. He has to be careful about not bonking his head on any of the builds above, but to me, it looks like he just wants to wait as we have our second placement point threshold tick over, and Riverson still up on his feet, still closing that delta as we see the launch pads come out and the rotation take off, and Riverson, he's just going to do it on foot. We'll see if he ends up regretting that decision. First headshot ends up coming through, but hi-ho, doesn't even go off through the woods. Instead, just straight through the open clearing, and this is good. However, he doesn't have a ton of mats, so might have ended up preferring actually just defaulting over that launch pad. We'll swing over to something a little bit more exciting as we Frappi just obliterate Brian Cub, which felt like almost a launch pad bait there, but instead it was just him opening up the wall and finding the key pump shot.
Look at that 3-box yet again. We get to see Riverson there in the top middle. Frappe trying to fight for that contention as well as Jay, but Jay getting sprayed back by the entire lobby focused. And they get out. Symmetrical going to go down to fall damage to Taltai. Will claim that elimination. Jay will get out of the spray for now, but where this zone goes, I was gonna say if it goes northeast, nobody is gonna get it, and it goes to the northeast. Launch pads are gonna come out. Let's see how many players start to fly.
This is going to be so incredibly hard because there is that change in verticality and it's rather steep and you can't really go around it either. The river is largely, the river might stay in play, so it might end up being the play to end up rotating down river potentially a little late. Riverson dropping down, he's gonna take a fight and he goes down. Only a 3-point game for Riverson. That was in 39th play. We've talked about it before. The doors will open, excuse me, a 4-point play, but the doors are open now, and Exy potentially looking to force his way through. Nigel goes down, everyone takes to the sky. Regular, Salco, Proyo, Beck, all up there, but we'll hop on board with Jay, who should have seen Riverson go down, and he should know that if my time was ever, it's now. Pop the flop, but what can he do? Can he get the drop on an unsuspecting opponent? Finds a little bit of space, but he wants to make somebody a disgrace. He wants to turn it around and just find some form of elimination, but not going to get the room he needs to make it happen. We'll swing over to Frappi, the other player who is closing in towards that top 3. Both him and Jay looking for something, and that's Nate and Jay in a fight underneath it. We'll swing back over to him. That epic tack, trying to put him pressure wall to wall, but not necessarily finding it. But you hear so many players in the water who will drop down and start finding those little fishies as Zone is gonna pull right back across Jay.
Gonna get lucky there for them. Those are some of the players in contention. Epic Whale's trying to make his way up to the top of the leaderboard. Really on Frappe, and Jay just beaming players, but cannot convert on the elimination. Notch is on the high ground right now, but low ground is where all of the leaderboard action is going to come from. Jay with that epic tactical shotgun, legendary rather, trying to get their way on through, trying to make something happen. Still has one flopper, can still make some sort of last-ditch effort to make their way into the zone. Will break their way on through, continue to go. No builds remaining. Now going for the play a little bit too soon, and they're sliding down. They need to stay alive for as long as they can. No, and what an unfortunate jump there. Thought they were going to be able to parkour their way on up, and they just go down. They spray it all the way through. And so now where is Frappe? They are still there, middle of the screen, trying to get in. They've got 30 builds remaining. His zone is going to pull back. This is great for them.
That's so awful from Jay, and the worst part is he had the launch pad there too, but no builds to do it. However, not awful. That's Frappi ending up finding a huge refresh onto Jay Rojas, get some much needed shields as well as materials, back up to 71, and we're into that A zone, so still plenty of time left. But on the low ground, making a charge towards the top of the leaderboard, said, hey, you can't talk about West and forget me. That's Reed Alithi also trying to get his name back into contention. He had a fantastic game number 1, but has been quiet since. Let's see if he can find it. Drops down. 3 elims, not necessarily going to find the shot. Everybody wanted to hang on for that top 10, and Alithi going to find it as Poffy, who gets obliterated there, but Frappi now just skulking around on the low ground, looking for whatever he can find, to going to make sure he takes a tick of zone. That was intentional to make sure he can get off a medkit play, and now he's going to sprint to try and get a little bit ahead of the zone.
Does do it. Reed looking good on the low ground as well. Does have the heal up potential going back in his zone. Picks up a great upgrade there. K-Nox gonna get regulator. 10 builds remaining. Notch up above, going for it. That medkit play down below. Frappe still second high ground. This is not where he wants to be. Does have medkit play potential. Glaze gonna go down to K-Nox. Frappe actually gonna start to look up towards the high ground. Maybe able to see that player is running out of builds. Shots will come through. They both trade off about an equal amount, trying to go for the medkit, but not enough time. Reed is in boxes. This is where Reed operates so well. That's another elimination going over number 4. K-Nox will fall. In the meantime, Alithi gonna get one on the backside. Alithi looking so good. 5 eliminations, trying to clutch that tournament first place right now. Reed versus Alithi. And Alithi gonna go down. Reed says, NA West is my region. Frappe popping off 90 points, though. It's getting closer and closer to Riverside. If not gonna overtake him. What a big shot onto Reed, though. 157. Reed just gonna box him out. Can he find it? Reed steps in the zone.
Reed takes the zone tick, and Frappi takes advantage of Riverside going down. Reed took advantage of it too, but we'll see the final moment real quick. This is Epic Tack versus Epic Tack, and this is the pressure we talked about. Pushes forward, finds the immediate 105 into the 33. Also able to get some second place placement points, but you can see Frappi, that was the shot right there, and that's where the pump ends up making the difference. And Reed just not quite controlled enough, not quite smooth enough. And the worst part is he had the builds. chance. He could have stayed on there. He could have just boxed Fratby out. If he stays in the zone, that's it. But instead, Fratby, 5 eliminations, the victory royale, and he goes charging up the leaderboard. We're going to send it back over the desk so they can set the stage for the final match of the FNCS All-Stars and show us what's up for grabs.
Thank you so much, Sundown and Clay. My goodness, it is crazy to think. I literally feel like we just started NA West, and now it is the final match on the day. Fratby, all eyes are on you right now. He is taking matters into his own hands. He knows what's at stake, and right now he is making that run. He says, Kelly, I want to walk away in that #1 spot with a bunch of prize money, and nothing's going to get in my way.
Listen, Frappe is doing an incredible job. He was in 4th place last game, and I can't wait to see our leaderboard right now to where he is after that incredible victory royale. But you obviously have to look at Jay as well, going down in Zone 8, barely missing that launch pad. If he had just a few more mats, he would have been able to get away, possibly get a few more points. And that's why those two have switched positions now. Frappe grabbing that 2nd place over Jay. Riverson, though, still holding on to that 1st place, but Shayo, it's only by 2 points now.
Yeah, and everyone on this page, they have their tendencies, they have their patterns rolling in to these games. The Lithi making another one, Krizix making high ground difficult for every player. Epic and Arkham now side by side in 8th and 9th. They'll try to get towards that top 3 possibly, but Riverson, he's got a new contender now right beside him, a 2-point difference with him and Fratby. And you know, Reet, he could have been the one who was all the way up there, maybe making it closer between 2nd and 3rd place. That final shot, Kelly, I'm not sure what they did with attack shotgun. Apparently, if you hit a max damage one, you stun your opponent and he stumbles backwards. That was the most insane low ground clapback I've seen on NA West, and it came from Fratby. What a crazy, crazy win.
I mean, just look at these two stats right now. Riverson with more points, but barely in that 1 victory royale, outweighing the 2 victory royales from Fratby right there. That, of course, is going to be coming down to the average amount of points that he is able to get, of course, placing 3rd and then 1st, and then getting a 10th place finish in that last game right there. Whereas Fratby had a rough first few games, but still, this is anyone's game in our top 5 right now. But we do have to take a quick look at Make and grabbing an incredible 6 eliminations, the most eliminations out of game number 5.
And as we watch all these highlights play through, let's just really talk about that story. The final narrative coming into Game 6. You have people who have the ability to make endgame, but it's honestly just a somewhat 2-man race all the way towards the top. Riverson versus Fratby coming in at a difference of 2 points as well. Now, he's the only person in the 80-point threshold here, Kelly. He's going to try to catch up and make it over with these elims. Every time he goes for an elim, though, it's a risk he takes, a risk he took a bit too much with Fratby at the end there. I mean, will he be able to catch up to these 2 titans up top, or will Fratby clap back again?
Look at his run, though, Shayo. First game, he went down in 94th, getting 0.0 eliminations, and then he went to 22nd, and then he grabbed an elim, and then he went to 3rd, and then he went to 2nd. You know what? I'm calling it right now. Game 6, Victory Royale, grabbing 6 eliminations. This is going to be Reed's tournament.
Whoa.
Okay, and let's look past that as well too, right? Every other player outside of maybe even really the top 3, top 4, there's a waterfall effect going down now in NA West. They're all separated by 1 point each. You get an elim, you go down at some point. If you started this game off in 10th, you can go all the way down to that 20th place threshold, the 40th place threshold. Similarly, if you're down there, you can boost up your prizing. I mean, all the way to 1st right now, they're fighting for $35,000 in that grand prize. Kelly, this could be anyone's game, but 2 fighting for the championship at the very top.
So much money is on the line right now, and it's all going to come down to this last game, Zeke.
Oh my gosh, I'm so tense. It happens every time. Fortnite fam, this is it. One final game of the FNCS All-Star Showdown right now. One last time aboard the battle bus. This is for everything. The stage is set. Watch the elimination feed. Make sure you're tracking these key names, because if one of them falls, you know that's it. Sharks will strike, and that 1st place spot looks very vulnerable right now. But for now, buckle up. All right, grab your popcorn, grab the slurp juice, because we're going into game number 6 of NA West. Clay Sundown, one last time. Let's run it.
One last time into the breach off of the battle bus, and after 3 individual skill challenges, the 3v3 objective, the 4 rounds of open play-ins, 41 matches across all of the other regions, the answer to life and everything is 42. And in this 42nd and final match we have here, Game 6 NA West, the ultimate question, Clay, will Riverson hold off the charging Frappi? Will Reed, who looked like he didn't have a horse in the race, come charging from the back after a fantastic performance in match 4 and 5? Or will somebody else upset the apple cart? It all comes down to this, and we have on the right side of the screen Riverson, Frappi, and Reed 1, 2, and 3. You can check out where they're dropping and what they get.
Still contested there for Riverside. That is what puts so much pressure on that right there. Reed has been contested at Misty Meadows as well. Frappe landing all by himself up to the northern side of the map. And honestly, this is just so tense for Riverside because he's played such a great game. Has played so dominant, played consistent. But Reed, you can never count him out. Frappe, you cannot count him out. Jay, Alithi have proven you cannot count them out as well. Now Reed's got some momentum, and Reed with momentum is probably one of the scariest things to see. And Reed with an epic tactical shotgun is even more scary.
Yeah, I gotta give a shout out to Bucky. I mean, he literally just tweeted out, he said, OMG. I mean, Reed has to be the best attack player on the planet. Well, when everything is on the line, how great does it feel, Clay, to pop an elite chest and immediately 2 big shields, that purple tactical shotgun drops at your feet. You saw what happened in the last game. And Frappi, he's gonna feel great about that too. The weapon vending machine there gives him a blue pump. So everybody is saying, hey, we're rolling the dice and we're coming up 7s.
And now I want to see what Riverson has, because he's put in work with very little loot. But the great thing about Lazy Lake is that even though there are players contested here, these outer houses, it doesn't seem like they've been touched really at all. So he's got the opportunity to go through, find a better loot, because right now, it ain't looking good.
But honestly, again, he needs to just be able to hold on. However, his holding on is only 2 points. So yes, if you're holding on, you're banking on the fact that Frappi across the map is not going to be able to pick up an elimination.